When you eat something, what you do is you end up increasing the amount of sugar floating around in your bloodstream.
Okay.
And when your body recognizes that there's too much sugar floating around, it wants to move that someplace else.
All right.
And so when your cells need sugar for energy, they will come over and they'll start to try to move into this area. And they do so very, very slowly.
Okay.
So if the sugar's too high, your body then releases a hormone called insulin.
Insulin, gotcha.
And insulin then actually plugs into receptors on the cells to allow things to move a little faster.
Lots of sugar.
You got it, right? And that gets much more sugar into your cells much more quickly.
And I'm guessing I don't want that happening.
Well, it's good over the short term, but what happens in a diabetic is they actually develop a resistance to insulin. So we're going to put this little net over here, and now watch what happens when insulin tries to come and plug into the cell, and we try to add in some sugar. You can't get it in.
No, it can't get in the cell.
So this is the definition of insulin resistance, and this is what develops in a diabetic, is the inability for insulin to actually do its job by helping get sugar into the cells.
Interesting. Okay.
So
that's a great visual.
When someone with healthy blood sugar levels eats a candy bar, they process the sugar and it goes through just fine. When somebody with diabetes or prediabetes eats that same candy bar, that sugar ends up floating around in their bloodstream for a much longer time, and that is very, very damaging to our health. So they end up struggling in two fashions. One, they've got too much sugar floating around in their bloodstream, and so they're starting to struggle with some of the inflammation and damage that occurs from that.
Okay.
And at the same time, their cells are actually starving for fuel because they don't have enough sugar in them themselves.
That is not a good place to be.
That's why diabetics end up craving sugar, is because their cells are screaming out and saying, I need more fuel. So in the traditional medical approach, what they do to deal with this is they will first give you a drug like metformin, which artificially lowers the amount of sugar in your bloodstream.
Okay.
And that will improve that aspect of things. But look at your cell.
Yeah.
It's still starving.
Still starving for sugars over here.
So then, as things continue to worsen and insulin is having a harder and harder time doing its job,
through that net.
the next approach then would be to give the person something like insulin. So now we're going to pump you full of more and more of this hormone, and we're going to use that to break through that shell that we talked about, and that will allow us to then get more sugar in. The problem there, though, is over time, that little shell gets worse and worse and worse, and now it requires more and more insulin to get the job done. That actually, over time, will worsen diabetes.
You're not getting to the root of the problem there.
You got it. So in the case of diabetes, oftentimes the cause ultimately can be traced back to lifestyle. And so if the drugs can't cure you because the drugs didn't cause the disease, right, they're just masking the symptoms.
Right.
If the cause truly is tied into lifestyle, then that means we need a lifestyle approach in order to reverse it. And so by working with people in those aspects, we're actually able to do some pretty incredible things to help people get off of the meds, lower their blood sugar in a very natural way, shed those unwanted pounds and things that come along with the diabetes.
Dr. Botts, thank you so much,
as
always, and thank you for this very informative demo. I feel educated, and like I need to stop eating so many Rice Krispie treats.
You got it.
Okay.